Great. So moving on to teenager.
Gosh. Well, so I got really mercilessly teased in junior high. Part of it's because I got straight A's. I don't want to encourage anyone not to get straight A's in 7th grade, but it has some, I think there were 3 kids in in my class that had got straight A's in 7th grade. But also, I was really strong. I had really strong legs, and I remember specifically one time, walking down the hall and someone saying, boom, baba, boom, baba. I don't think I was overweight. I don't have any, I have not had issues around my body that hasn't really been a thing for me. So, but I just remember the way my attitude, I got teased an awful lot, but I let it roll off my back. But what I'm also realizing is that I knew that I had to suppress my anger. The idea was I had to play it cool. I couldn't let anyone show, I couldn't let it show that it, I don't know if it was actually upsetting. I don't know how I perceived it as a child. I have that very specific memory, and then one very specific other memory. Actually, I'll share this memory because they're all sort of related. My best friend, so I mentioned Karen in my childhood, and my closest dear childhood friend that I'm still in touch with twice a week, Julie. Julie and I sat next to each other in 7th grade in art class, and there was this boy, I can't think of his name now, that's crazy. Well, Ben Mathis. Oh. Ben sat across the table from me. There were 4 of us at the art table. And I don't know what Ben was teasing me about, something. And, it's like, okay, ignore. It takes a lot of energy to ignore a mosquito, right? It's a pain in the ass, right? So, at some point, Julie, who I'd known since 3rd grade, but hadn't been close to, said, "Shut up, Ben." So I had someone come to my rescue, and after that, we became fast friends. But I think what I was realizing as I was thinking of this is that I think that in my current life, I've had a fear of how, I've been expressing anger more over the last couple of years, and I'm realizing that I realized in this exercise that I've had a fear of my own anger, because this is as a 7th grader, if I was shut up or hit somebody, I would get in trouble even though I wasn't the one provoking the situation. So it was really, I don't know, I don't even quite know where to go with this exactly, but I realized that I developed a fear of my own anger through this period of time of getting teased.
Yes, and this is a huge issue for a lot of people. That voice gets suppressed, and as you so well stated, it takes a lot of effort to keep the lid on your anger or your emotions. You hold them. It's like holding down a huge, ferocious tiger with the lid on the box. It's almost impossible to do, but we find a way to choke it back.
Yeah, and there's the piece of authority. It's I was also the straight A student. The straight A student
Yep.
doesn't say anything.
It's not proper.
Right. I sort of became the leader of the underdogs. I was sort of the person that had this clan of the total dorks. And that's really interesting. Thank God I went to a different high school. I went to a high school full of nerds, so I fit in really well there. Otherwise,
that fear of being different and that peer pressure of trying to fit in. Those are.
I feel like it was more about people. It was more. I didn't want to fit in.
Okay.
To that.
Yeah.
I didn't like those people, and I had no desire to live up to being anything like them. It was more I think is this like, is this how people are? Like, it was like, is this
Yeah, is this what I want to belong to?
right?
It's
And like, is the rest of the world like this? Like, please don't let that be the case. You know what I mean? It was more like disappointment and fear and like fear that I'm always gonna have to.
fear of being of different and being independent and being your own self, your authentic self. That was like
No, the fear was more about the fear. I've always been my authentic self. In many ways. I mean, yes, I've had to suppress some things, but like I don't feel like the flame of my authentic self was ever dampened. It was more like, am I gonna have to deal with this shit for the rest of my life?
Okay.
The fear was more about like, how do I put up with crap without, I mean, I'm in Aries, without like just, taking off someone's head. Like, how do I, it was more that. I don't, no, I've been pretty much like.
Yeah. And I think though that this issue then, what you're really expressing is, how do I express myself and what I'm feeling, and how do I deal with anger, which is we could spend the next year in a workshop on just that topic, because most of us do not handle conflict well. We, rather than say something that we regret, we hold it in, we stuff it. And I can remember my sound healing instructor saying to me, giving me actually permission for the first time in my life, for 5 minutes every day of your life, find a space where you can release anger. And do it in such a way that you actually release it. Not just talk to a friend about it, venting like we talked about earlier, but whether that's beating on a drum, wringing a wash rag, throwing a ball at a fence, hitting a ball, whatever it is, but actually release it. And I used to feel so guilty or so ashamed because of my religious upbringing in doing that I suppressed it. Perfect example, in preparation for a little cabinet opening party today with the people from Lowe's, I had brought home 3 6-packs of ale, or actually cider, and root beer and refreshments, and was trying to carry these down the basement steps to the refrigerator, extra refrigerator. And of course I tripped.
Oh my gosh.
And broke 4 of the bottles. Wow.
You didn't hurt yourself.
No.
Okay.
But I just let it fly. And my old self, the suppressed Sandra, would never have done that. I gave myself permission to just say it and frustrate it and blah, 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 blah. And when I did that, it was over and done with. In other words, I wasn't carrying it on through the rest of my day or months or years.
Right.
As happens when you don't do it, then that festers.
Well, yeah, it's been really interesting in my relationship to see like how I handle anger now, because now I'm actually in a safe space to express anger, but I've never quite learned how to do it appropriately necessarily. I mean, I'm able to name that, so it's okay.
Yes,
but it's still.
But that can be a whole area of healing work for you and for everybody else out there too.
You know, the other thing that's really interesting is how when you were asking me about fears, about suppressing my authentic self, how that's really interesting. That wasn't really what I was afraid of. Mm-hmm.
Yep, it was something else.
I mean, there have been other times in my life, actually, now that I'm thinking of it, in later adulthood, where I have worried about that, and I've been in situations where I've had to get out. And once I got out, it was like I rebounded very quickly. But that is really interesting how 7th grade didn't make me worry about that, but other scenarios as an adult were. I guess I just.
If you had your voice. If you had your voice instead of your friend speaking for you,
that's a good point.
What would you have said? How would you have said it?
Something like, Ben, why don't you just focus on your art and shut up? Or something like that. I would have been very matter of fact about it. It would have been like, this is really tiresome. Because that's how I felt. It was just like, except for, I might have been at the point where I would have been like, shut up! You know what I mean? I was like...
But it could be, it doesn't always have to be explosive.
Right.
It can just be the truth. You know, why don't you just find something positive to focus on, like your art? And,
Right.
you know, just be quiet.
Right.
I don't need this, or whatever. Right. Yeah.
It might have been something like that. It
Yeah.
probably would have been. I mean, it probably would... but, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, hopefully these are triggering some memories
really
for you
interesting.
as well.